Got it.
Hi. Hey, man. What's going on?
Hello, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good, Mitchell. What are you up to?
I just came online here because you said, "Hey, let's do a podcast about Futurama."
That's right. Well, I've always wanted to do a podcast with you, and I think something we love so much, like Futurama, something that's been going on for a long time, and perhaps will be coming
We'll
back in
continue.
the near future here, right? As
Oh,
as of this
it is.
recording.
It is back.
Yeah, and I
It
think
is coming back.
everybody's signed on for their reprising their roles and everything,
Yeah.
which is
So
awesome.
just in case people are hearing and stuff like that, maybe this is news to people.
Yeah,
There was an almost no Bender voiced by John DiMaggio,
right.
which is, in my opinion, the core character for the show. People will see
He's
Bender and it's just like, oh, that's Futurama. He may not be, the favorite or the best or whatever, but he's definitely the most recognizable because he's part of the main three. And
yeah, he's the
human,
mascot, right?
human,
Yeah,
not cyborg. What's the word I'm looking for? Cyclops, and
right,
then alcoholic robot.
right. No,
I definitely would say
he,
it's more
yeah,
iconic than the other two.
he's definitely the most iconic. I mean, he's the one that's introduced in like all of the promotional material. He's the face of
Oh
the
yeah.
like there's literal Bender, toys that are even referenced in the show that are like making fun of that whole thing, right? Like
Oh,
Bender is
stop
necessary.
touching my junk, pervert.
So just like Bart Simpson and Homer, actually, for the Simpsons, like both
I
of them
think
are
he's
pretty
he's
iconic.
highly based after Homer.
Exactly. So I'd say like he's the Homer of this situation, right? Despite being, he is the drunk, just like Homer. He's like the lazy one, just like Homer. He does all these whatever
Bald
things,
one,
right?
just like Homer. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Bender is definitely necessary. So it's good that John DiMaggio
Yes,
wanted to do it.
Bendergate, as people are calling it. I was 100% against it if he was not included, which
Yeah.
is kind of like a bit of a selfish thing on his end. But from what he has said, it wasn't he himself asking for money because he thought he was better. It was him
Right.
asking, like because the character is was and the cast is, he said that it's not himself. Other people have already said yes and stuff like that. So like Katie Seagal's in it, Billy West is in it, all the other guys and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm trying to think. Tress McNeil, um,
Phil
Samurai
Lamar.
Jack's
Yeah.
Philomar, thank
Phil
you.
Lamar. Yeah.
Maurice LaMarche,
Yep. For
uh,
sure. David Herman.
David Herman, who
Lauren
does the funny
Tom.
voices.
Yeah.
Lauren Tom, of course, yeah, Amy, for my
Yeah.
bad.
Of
And
course.
David X. Cohen.
David X.
I
Cohen.
can't
Well,
remember all
David
the
X.
names.
Cohen
Yeah,
is the producer, right? So yeah, he'll
isn't he
be.
Nibbler?
No, that's Frank Welker. Frank Welker. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. Yeah, yeah.
Meg-
Frank Welker will be in it, but he'll probably be showing up as well. I don't know if he was confirmed, but like
I would
everybody said
love
they
for them
would.
to do some more like past Nibbler doing stuff
Yes,
for Fry, to Fry, or
absolutely.
even, and this is probably, I think, in our hopefully your opinion as well, the cliffhanger that they have, not a cliffhanger, but just like a story that has been suggested for the
Right,
longest time, when Nibbler was telling Fry that how the future was important, and he said, "Is there nothing in the future that you'd care for?" And he's like, "Well, there is Leela," and
right,
then Nibbler will say, "Oh, she must be the other." They never ever delved into that, and you had
right,
an idea that maybe it could have been something with the second movie, the Beast with a Billion Backs, or whatever it was called, and
right.
that because she had somewhat of a storyline. But I digress. I'm very happy that everyone will be back, and I'm very happy that John DiMaggio did get talked into it, whether it was more money or whether it was just to maybe make noise so people like, what, there's a Futurama, what, Bender might not be there, what
What would be the
you
point,
never know.
right? Yeah. Well,
Like I
yeah,
honestly don't think that it was oh, what's the word? Like fake. It wasn't fake, in
right,
my opinion. I do think that he probably asked for money because let's face it, John DiMaggio has been a voice in pretty much our childhood, plus even current day childhoods and stuff like Adventure Time only came out like 2009, 10ish or something like that, and that went on for like 8 years. And he's been around since probably well before our childhood too.
right,
It was like I can't think of much. Might have been in the beginning of his career. But
right.
I'm very happy that they have the original cast. Whether or not it will be good with today's Hollywood and
Whew.
TV,
Yeah, with all
we'll
that
find
fun
out.
stuff, we'll have to
Yeah,
find out, right? But
yeah.
yeah, like
Just short
yeah,
opinion on from that. Watching what uh, Disney has done to The Simpsons, which I know that is
mhm,
Hulu, not Disney,
right,
that Futurama has, but I just feel like the quality has shifted and changed, and mind you, I never got into The Simpsons till maybe about 13 seasons, so I'm after The Simpsons got not good, and after that they got not good. It was after the movie, pretty much. I started watching it, but
That's right.
the
Yeah,
animation
you're a latecomer to The
looks
Simpsons.
different. Yes,
Yeah.
I was a very late comer
Yeah.
to The Simpsons, but I still love it and stuff like that. There are good episodes this season, in particular for The Simpsons. There's been only one episode that I overly enjoyed. It was when Marge and Simpson were going to like a marriage weekend away, but their car crashed and somehow they couldn't get back to society, so they're out in the woods with abandoned love products and stuff like that, like a love hotel went out of business and crumpled, and they kind of
Oh,
lived there. It was a very well. I did enjoy that one, but there's other ones that they've done are just like, you really want to talk about that? They talked about that a long time
yeah,
ago, the whole Apu thing and stuff like that.
sure.
There's many things
Oh,
about the current day Simpsons that I do
geez.
not like, and
Yeah,
a good chunk of it I would say is Disney's fault. So
absolutely,
that's why I'm
absolutely.
cautious but
Mhm.
excited, but I'm not
Right.
going to hype it up for me for the new season. Now, will it be like the Comedy Central stuff where it goes for a season, gets canceled, but gets brought back? Or is it going to
Yeah.
be like we have 3 seasons that we're going to do and that's it? Or hey, we're going to keep it open for you guys. If it's good, we'll keep going. If not, we're just going to do one season. I'm curious to see what happens.
Me too. And
Sorry
I
for going on many different
no,
subjects
no, no. I
very
think
quickly.
I think you hit a lot of things on the head, and that's something that I think with this podcast and this review show, I think this is what's really really important for us to really touch on, right? How is it that Futurama is going to change? And even over the course of when it was first introduced back in 1999, and it goes through all of these renditions, and like you said, so many season finales and changes, and we don't know whether or not,
Four
yeah,
seasons
four season
finales.
finales.
The
Is it
original
ever
season
going to come back?
5, the movie
Yep.
one, the sixth season
Yeah.
finale when they got canceled like
Yeah,
Comedy
quote
Central,
unquote
and then it
canceled
got
and then
brought
brought
back.
back.
Was it
Yeah,
also Comedy Central or was that
all of it was Comedy
Adult
Central.
Swim?
No, no, all of it was Comedy Central because it was all.
Okay,
They just didn't know if they were renewing, so
it was 10 years ago almost. It was
yeah,
2013 when it got brought back, and I was
yeah,
23 at that time, and I was
right,
so excited. I was like, Futurama's back, yeah, because that was kind of like
yeah,
the height of my Futurama love, because the
sure,
movies had just come out, and
yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
one was fun. Second one had the best jokes. What was the worst story wise? The third one was also fun. It was fantasy. It made fun of Star Wars as well as Lord of the Rings. You can't hate
yeah.
that
Kind of a
in a fun
mix.
way. In a
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And then the fourth one, which one was that one again? I'm trying to remember. It was the
The one with the mini
Fry.
villains,
Fry
right?
again was
Yeah,
another like he's
yeah,
the answer because he's got
yeah.
no brainwave. Yep, I did the nasty and the pasty
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. So
Yeah,
I want
no,
to see if they have any more of those stories.
we'll have to see what they do with it. I think, yeah, well, when we touch on the movies, it will definitely break apart the films, obviously, for all these things. I think
I
the
think just a
yeah,
long special for each one. Like I don't know how long we'll do per
sure.
episode. I suggested the same amount of time as the episode to double, possibly.
We'll have to
But
see. I'd say a
we'll play
good,
it by ear.
yeah, of course.
After
I'd
all,
say
this is just kind of the
a good
introduction to
40
both of us.
minutes. Of course.
Our love for the show, just our friendship that we've had for 20
Long
some
time.
years,
Right.
23 years.
And we're both
20,
aficionados with our, like with our respective desires of our fandoms, right? Like
yeah,
I am a big Star Wars fan. I'm also a very big
same,
Futurama fan. I've always
same.
been a big I've loved certain things for a very long time, and it's never stopped me from doing it, just like you have. And this is kind of what's bonded us over the years. We've really
And we
talked about
hate it when
these.
people mock and hate the curriculum that they write. Abrams.
Yeah. And they destroy everything, and that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future we'll talk about that too, but that's a little bit more angering. I think what
Yeah.
Futurama does for us as well is that it's kind of it makes everything very. It's always had happy memories, a lot of great views and a lot of great ideas, and Futurama never hit that part where it became unnecessarily, ridiculous with like woke paraphernalia or any of these
Not really,
other
no.
issues, right? Like it touched
No.
on them, obviously, because it's set
Oh
a
yeah.
thousand years in the future, but it never got to a point where you're like, wow, you're just pushing this in my face. They were always very, very good with this. And I think starting from 1999 to, 2013 or wherever it was when it finally got canceled the last time before
Yeah.
being brought back 10 years later, I think that
Almost.
this is, yeah, almost. I think this is also a very important thing for it because it really shows there's no other show like Futurama. that's done this.
No,
And
no,
so I think
it's very open ended. Like,
yeah,
it's funny with their possibilities and stuff like that, like the future technologies and stuff like that. The writers, for instance, are very smart. The when it got brought back after the movie, so like the second, the sixth and seventh season, is that what they're called?
yeah. Like
Well,
part one and
I'll
part
refer
two of
them
them.
for the
Yeah,
sixth and
yeah,
seventh seasons because the movies are their own thing. They're not a season. They're the
that's right.
movies.
Even though I
Um,
think they count them in
the
season
second part
five.
was a lot more scientifically funny rather than kind of like weird joke, kind of future funny like the original five seasons and
Right.
stuff like that. Like just as a short instance, the one where everyone could switch bodies but they couldn't switch back. The guy who wrote that movie proved some math theory about it or something like that. How you just would need two people to swap back
Yeah,
everyone, something like
yeah.
that. It's very strange, and I should probably look more into it if when we get to that episode, if we
Well,
do,
of
hopefully.
course. Well, and that's something I want to really touch on when we do our reviews for sure. Is that theme is very important, but we also want to look at like the content of it. What was the driving thought from this episode? What does it do to the story? What does it do for the characters? Does it have continuity? Because there's one thing about this show, which we can honestly say for a lot of other shows, they do not really do very well, especially animated shows, is continuity. There are elements that episodes will carry over into future seasons even that
Like
are
the secret
referencing
language that
everything.
they had.
Secret languages, people's
People found
parents,
out
people's
oh yeah,
wives,
people's
yeah.
parents. Yeah.
History of, even the main character of Fry, like
The
even all
first
these things,
episode had the
right?
shadow of Nibbler in that
Yeah,
one. Like
exactly.
when people went back and looked, it was like, so they had that in plan. It took a little while
Yeah.
to get anywhere
So,
with it,
and,
but
and that's a big
no.
thing, right? And this is wonderful they do it. So they'll throw in little things here and there about continuity errors, which I'm sure we'll talk about because these are things that I focused on. But when we see the actual episode to see what happens, that's what I really like to see, right? And then of course, yeah, one thing I thought would be fun for us as well is because you and I always, we make these jokes. We have our, you know, we put up these lines. We like to, like as you did with like, Zoidberg or Fry, like little things there. But
Love Zoidberg.
I always want to talk about. Let's talk the most valuable player of the episode. Like who would we say is like the best character of the episode, kind of thing, the MVP.
Me,
And
the
then
watcher.
sure, but in the episode, right, that we can see on them.
Generally, it's Zoidberg. It's always Zoidberg. He's the only guy that's on the good list of Santa Claus.
even with Zoidberg not being in the episode, you do that.
I think he wasn't in the first episode, was he?
Well, he's not in a lot of episodes, but when he is in there, he does bring a lot of joy. But there's got to be the reason for it. So I think we should come up with our choice for it and then have our conversation about what makes this person the most valuable and see if we agree. If not, it is what it is. But that's kind of the idea for Futurama. And that's what I really want to dive into with it. And I thought you'd be the perfect person to really get into this with because
Yeah, you and I have been fans since the beginning.
yeah,
Or
and
at least since the
arguably,
movies
and
that
arguably
we
you
knew
know
that
more
each other
about
were.
this. Yeah, well, you know more about this show than most people I know, if not myself. So
It's kind of a very, it's not niche, but it's not a common fandom. People who do
yeah,
watch it love it. But
for
the
sure.
thing is, most people, it's one of those oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um Taboos. There we go. I'll say it's taboos. Like, there's a lot of adults out there who like, oh, cartoons are for kids and stuff like that.
Right.
Even if it's like, or like, directed for adults. And it has gotten better. Like something like Rick and Morty, which
Mhm. Definitely not kids. Not for
love
kids,
it,
but
love it or
yeah,
hate it,
yeah,
especially the fandom and the fans.
yeah.
Um, it's definitely orientated towards adults, and I will say that probably has a lot of people watching it. Like my dad, who's in his mid late 50s right now. I watched a couple episodes with him, and he thought they were pretty good. I think he prefers Futurama over it, just because
Sure.
there's a very difference from like late 90s, early 2000s written show to a few years ago written show. Like science is a big thing now, and people want, for some reason, more accurate stuff, but will still want lots of like weird ideas that have no science base behind it that they'll enjoy. Regardless, it was one of the reasons why I love Futurama is because they're like, oh, what do you have there? Oh, it's a spray for the roaches, and then a giant roach would come by and Fry would just spray it away, and he's like, yeah, like that, bye,
Right.
kind of thing. Like just nonchalantly do that. Like
Right.
there's no
It's little
reason behind it.
jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, and like a lot of the professors, inventions are just jokes. They'll keep bringing them back, kind of thing, like the Finglonger. What a stupid idea, but I would love to have one.
It's such a continuity thing, right? Because it does show up in many different episodes in the future,
it showed
right?
up at
So it
least,
is
I think,
actually
around
useful
3
to him,
times. Yeah.
right?
There's the one where he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's what life would have been like if I had invented the
Finglonger.
Finglonger." And then at
Yeah.
somewhere along the point, he had created it, or maybe that was also a what if episode. We don't
Right.
know.
What if the rest of the series is a
Interesting,
what
if
episode?
true.
Right. So we'd have to figure out all that stuff. But yeah, and then of course we'll go into like, guest stars. What's the what are these people like? And of course, like who's still alive? Who's still alive that's been doing all these things? Because they have, of course, the heads in the jar thing that brings contemporary
Right, yeah.
celebrities into the future.
I rewatched the first episode so we could talk about not this one. We'll do obviously.
Oh,
this
of course,
is just
of course.
get to know each other, which we will eventually talk about us, rather than our love for the show.
That's how big of fans we are.
But like Dick Cheney or something like that. I can't remember. Is that a
no
ex-president, vice president?
He was a vice president. He was
okay. Maybe I'm Dick Clarkson. There you go. Sorry,
Dick Larson. Dick Clarkson. Yeah, he's
there's a joke of that, like, "Hi,
yeah.
I'm Dick Clarkson's head," like the head in the jar thing. I love that idea, and it's become a norm now for Futurama.
Mm-hmm. And even with
Leonard Nimoy. Well, that one makes sense, but just this in general is just it's a thing of its past, 1999, 2000. I'm pretty sure Dick Clarkson was a huge thing for New York because that's where the show is based. We're Canadians, by the way. We live in the opposite side of the West. We live in the West Coast.
We're Western Canadians talking about a show that takes place in Eastern United States 1,000 years in the future.
Yeah, 1,000 years in the future.
But that's something as well that I'd like to talk about when it comes to culture, because this is something that I think with Futurama and with a lot of American shows, because they really focus on America. But since we're right next door, it's easy for them to
our cultures interbreed very easily.
Well, they're
if
very
not, they are the same.
Yeah. They're very, very similar, if not the same, right? And then it kind of has all these different
it's just colder up here, that's all.
Exactly. But we speak
even in
the same
Vancouver,
way.
which is the tropical capital of Canada.
Right.
It still gets cold here, guys. If anyone wants to ever visit,
the warmest city in Canada.
Yes. Make sure you come during the summers, especially if you're from a warmer climate.
Yeah.
Because remember, our summers are usually the same temperature as your winters if you're coming from a more tropical place.
Right. Yeah, it's not great. But
plus 30 is hot.
Nice for us.
Celsius. Plus 30 Celsius is hot here. Minus 40 Celsius is very cold. And I haven't experienced much of that in my life, but Anthony and I used to live in the mountains in Alberta there. And I think the coldest it ever got was about negative 52 with the wind chill. So it's like negative 40 something plus wind chill. So needless to say, if you guys can handle that, and at that point, it doesn't matter if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit, negative 40 is freaking cold.
Right. Minus 40 was like with snow, with all that stuff. That was the worst kind of stuff.
I like minus 15 with no wind. I can love that. If there's wind,
I just don't want snow. Just don't give me snow, and I'm okay.
No snow on the road. No snow on the road.
In any case, yes, it's very similar ideas for this, and so that's what Futurama does. But in any case, well, why don't, since we're kind of talking about us, we can go into this. So, like, my name is Anthony. Obviously, I've come. I'm Canadian as well. We all come from the same. Mitchell and I both come from the same city. Basically, I guess we grew up kind of in the same neighborhood, and we were friends with people.
5 turns in a way.
Yeah, some of the sort. And so we went to school together. Mitchell was a grade older than I was. And a buddy of ours introduced us, right? He was friends with both of us. And so with all this, I
think we knew each other when I was 6 years old, grade 2,
something
grade
like
2 or 3-ish.
Right? Yeah, we've known each other over 20 years.
Known each other, We weren't really good friends until high school, just because, what was it? Elementary, it was K to 6, as soon as he was in grade 6, I was in a different school. That was 7, 8, 9. And then, did you go to RT Alderman?
Yes, I went to RT Alderman. Anyway, it doesn't matter where we went.
It was around that time when they switched school districts, but whatever. It
doesn't matter.
But as soon as grade 11 came in, and Anthony was in grade 10, he hung out with us, and fast friends, and you'll probably see our relationship. We like to bicker at each other. We're an old married couple that's pretty much
Exactly.
been
It's
around with
20
each other for a long
years.
time. Yeah,
Exactly.
we like we've known each
Yeah.
other, we've been friends with each other, but not really good friends until high school, which
Right.
is how it goes sometimes, you know.
Of
And our high
course.
school had like 1,000 kids per grade, so 3,000 kids, and that was at the time a lot of other kids went to a different school, so it was supposed to have like 5,000 students, which is a lot when you think about it.
Yeah.
So to have a good core friendship with someone that you've known, and mind you, I've switched. I've lived in a few different cities a couple times, back and forth between home and where I live now, and so I've met lots of people. But I'm very happy to have Anthony still in my life and a good friendship,
Yeah.
even though he's super far away.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next thing here. So for myself, right? Like I grew up in Canada, grew up in Calgary.
Yeah.
I lived in Vancouver a little bit. This is where Mitchell lives currently.
Yeah.
My life took a different turn though, because I went to school. I studied sociology. I focused in criminology, but I've always had a love of the arts and a love of media in general. And it wasn't something I could really do. And so couldn't find any work. I decided to take at the time, a short idea. It was a short trip to go and teach English abroad. And I went to a new place, uh, China, that was a very different
Far
experience. It
away.
still is. But I can't, of all the things I have to say about China, and believe me, there are many. I won't get into it on this because it's just not the right place. But I'm happy for the most part here. I've met someone very wonderful, my wonderful wife, who I married recently, and we're
She's
still
real, guys.
currently yes, and we're still currently living in China, and we're planning to move back in the future sometime. So as of right now, Mitchell and I are in very different time zones, and we're doing this kind of thing. But anyway, that's the most thing for me.
Yeah,
And
he's
Mitchell,
where you
yourself, what's your little backstory
15
there?
hours
So you kind
ahead.
of know this 15 hours approximately. Yeah, you're behind for me. I'm ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, you're in the future,
I'm in the
but he won't
future.
tell me the winning lotto numbers. It frustrates me.
They're blocked. I can't find it. They're blocked. Anyway, tell the audience a little bit about yourself when it comes to
Yeah,
your why do
so,
you
so
love what you love? Yeah.
okay, well, I guess I've always been a child at heart. Was is probably the biggest thing that'll ruin my life going in the future of things. Just a big giant child.
Just a big kid,
Yeah,
aren't you, Mitchell?
yeah. I grew up in Calgary with Anthony and stuff like that. Went to the same school pretty much for a long time. Like I said, we weren't really good best friends until
Right.
like high school and stuff like that, and uh, pretty much inseparable. But me, what did I do? I did sports when I was younger. Loved basketball
Mm,
because I was tall
totally.
and stuff like that. Not too
Yeah.
tall, but tall
Tall
for
enough.
that for normal, tall for normal basketball, not tall enough for the
Sure.
NBA. I like doing sport, but I was also a huge geek. I like drawing and stuff like that,
Mm.
and that kind of led to I went. Okay, sorry. Boom. High school, graduated, I worked at a retail for like I don't know till I was
Oh,
23,
who hasn't
and
done
I also
retail? Yeah.
yeah I know,
We all
but
did retail.
I still believe that people should give a year worth of retail in their
What
normal
did
day
you
life,
study?
whatever.
What
So
did you
you did retail,
study?
but during when I was doing retail for those 5 years after high school, I went to ACAD, which was called ACAD at the time, called Alberta College of Art and Design, because I liked doing art and stuff like that. So I went and did that, and it didn't go for so well. I did part-time classes and stuff like that, but I did do some animation courses there, and I really loved it. And I love drawing and stuff like that, and I love cartoons and stuff like that. And it's hard to just say which one is my favorite cartoon, but Futurama is definitely up there.
Right.
Um, and there's different styles of animation too. Like I think my favorite Disney cartoon is probably Emperor's New Groove, which is a very cartoony type of cartoon compared to the rest of them.
Yes.
So
That's a great one.
really got into animation, and unfortunately, I didn't finish my education at the college. So basically, we Anthony and I also like going to Comic Con or Comic Expo
Oh
as they called
yeah,
it,
right.
and
Totally. Totally
that
forgot
that
about
introduced us.
those.
I can't remember which one it was, but I think we started going during like high school, right? Like
Yes. I
yeah,
think
high
like
school
when I was in 10 and you were in 11, I think we
was
both
the first one that
started.
we went to.
And I think that was the second or third year they started doing them. So they're very, very small. Do you
I
remember that?
remember Lou Ferrigno was at the second one, and that was like the big name they brought because he was the Hulk, right? He's the
That's
Hulk, and
right.
everyone
Yeah.
loved that. This is kind of before.
Yeah.
This is before Iron Man, so this would have been like 2005, seven or something like that. So not 2008, 9 when Iron Man came out.
Or
So this is
it was
pre
right
Marvel.
before, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, 10 let's see here. It would have been 2000. I think 2006 or 2007 was when the first one was, and we started in the second.
I can't
year, if I'm not
remember.
mistaken.
Dad
I do
took
remember.
Zach and I, my brother and I,
Yeah, I do
and
remember.
we were like, oh, this is so cool.
I do remember Sean Astin was like the big name they had for one time, who was Samwise Gamgee, the Lord of the Rings.
That would have been a huge name. Yeah.
He was the big one at the time. But again,
Rudy,
this is when it was
Rudy.
like one. It was one building.
It was one building.
And
it's like what, like 100 feet by 100 feet or something like that.
So it was
very
all
small.
these things. Yeah. But then of course, you fast forward to, a few years later and all this stuff, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it became the entire area of our hometown of Calgary. And it's just like the whole Stampede Park throughout, I think it's end of April to beginning of May, or end of May to beginning of June, whatever
they just
time
had
it
it
was.
not too recently.
Right.
Because of a certain pandemic.
Things
had to change. Situation has had to change.
Yeah.
People freaked out and overreacted, and things happened.
Of course. I know better than most what happened in that situation. Yeah.
Anyways, one of the times that Anthony and I went there, and my dad, and I think my brother, I can't remember. There was a time when my brother was too cool for this stuff. He loves it, but he was just too cool. So I think it was just Anthony, myself, and my dad.
Cool. He's never been cool. I want him to know that on the record. He's never been cool. Yeah, go for it.
I love my brother. We got to go to a voice acting thing. They have all these seminars, or just I can't remember, blocks where like you can go talk to, or not you personally, but just like you can be part of a crowd, and maybe you can go up and ask a question to like, say, the cast of Lord of the Rings, which they would bring like, I think like 2 out of 3 hobbits, and not the good ones, no offense. Or Stargate, I think, was one year, and I think Star Trek was another one. Anyways, so we went to the voice actors of Futurama.
It was
dope.
Great.
I think it wasn't. It was. I think at that time they didn't have Billy West. They did have John DiMaggio.
Phil LaMarr.
I think they had no, was it Phil LaMarr? Maurice LaMarche. It was Maurice LaMarche.
Maurice LaMarche was there for sure as well, but I'm pretty sure Phil LaMarr was there too, wasn't he?
No, I don't remember him. I would have been so ecstatic, because I thought there were 3. I would have asked a Captain Jack, or sorry, not Captain Jack, Samurai Jack question, because he was Samurai Jack.
He played the Samurai Jack. Well, if it wasn't,
I know. Maybe it was just some of the voices of Futurama, because I know that Rob Paulson, who is the voice of Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, and Maurice LaMarche is the Brain. Never mind, they had the Animaniacs. I wasn't there for the year of when they had Futurama, because I had school preparation that I had to do for my portfolio. Again, it was for the ACAD, the art college. So I unfortunately missed a lot of them. But my dad did get a Bender figurine I had signed by John DiMaggio.
Right. There was, I do recall this time, the one that you and I had gone to, and that was not a Futurama panel. Sorry to say, it was actually it was a voice actor panel, but it was still very good, because they still had people who were like, they all knew each other because they all worked with each other on different.
Right. Different was that with the voice actor who did Jude from 16?
I believe.
And that one, Billy West was a part of. It was just voice acting.
Yes,
and stuff like that. And I'm confusing multiple times, because there was multiple times where things were awesome. I think they did have Maurice LaMarche there. There was the Animaniacs one minus Tress MacNeille, because they actually, I remember that one correctly, because Rob Paulson, who originally did go for the role of Fry in Futurama, to bring it to Futurama, but Billy West got it, and he said that's fine, it's perfect. He did a great role. And Rob Paulson, I did believe, did do some background voices or some other stuff for Futurama, but he sang the map of the world. Mind you, it was the one from the Animaniacs, so it's not the current one. Czechoslovakia was still a thing, and not Czech Republic and Slovakia separate and stuff like that. And the entire crowd, he did it from memory too. Mind you, that was probably ingrained in his brain, and it was pretty cool. But I also remember Maurice LaMarche doing, I think it was Princess Bride, and he did Morbo. I can't remember what it was, but it was fun. It was so fun to watch these guys do their work. It's so fun to see these professional voice actors who we know from Futurama and stuff like that do their voices. It's like, oh, do the Don Bot. No, I won't do that one. Do Marvel. Yes, I'll do that one.
He loves,
Kind of
well,
thing.
that's the thing about these guys, right? You can tell they love what they do. And I think that was the thing with John DiMaggio as well, with the whole thing with Hulu, is that his love for Bender and his love for the Futurama world and the fans and the family that he's made there. I think this is kind of what his whole rendition was, right? Because he
Why he wanted
understands,
more money, yeah,
well, not just the money, but
and
he
deserved, and
understands.
deserved.
Right. And he's talking about like the corporate greed that kind of comes out of this. Cause as we both know, Hollywood is lacking a lot of creativity, right
Oh yeah,
now.
that's
And
why we're
it's
getting a lot of not reboots, yes, reboots, stuff
reboots.
like
Yeah.
that.
Reboots
And
and
some of them
redos and whatever.
have potential.
Some of them,
Whether they're
well,
written by
yeah,
people who are fans
I think
and
that's the key.
don't want to have their own voice heard. They want to have like the voice of the world and stuff like that. They don't want to. They don't
The
want to insert
message.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
insert the message, which they include them as themselves as something.
course.
So I
So
don't know
it's
if they have the same
unfortunate.
writers and stuff like that, and
Graining. Yeah.
Matt Groening
Yeah.
has a little more of a say than we'll say he does with the current Simpsons. I have no idea. Hopefully, they can kind of keep the same magic that they've had since 1999. It would be pretty cool.
Oh, and if Futurama could bounce back a fifth time and still have like the love that it's shared, even with like from the older series to the newer ones, and they still have all these great ideas and all these new things, and they really work
God.
with it. I think there's nothing that they can't do, and that'd be awesome. So when
Well,
the
how
time
old are the voice
comes,
actors at
yeah.
this point? Not to put age
Oh God.
on them. I think
Uh,
Katie Seagal's the oldest one. Is she not? Or
uh,
close to the oldest
maybe.
one?
You know what? I've got to say that I'm
I
pretty
want to
sure
say
Billy
Billy West
West
is
got to
maybe
be
in
in
his
his
60s.
60s. Yeah,
Yeah, I know that Katie
definitely.
Seagal's in her 60s. John DiMaggio is, I think, in his either late 40s or early 50s. All these
Right.
people are probably in their
They're
mid
old.
early to the
They're
early
old
50s
now.
to late 60s.
They're not going to
Because
sound like
I'm
20
only
year olds
thinking of,
anymore. Yeah.
yeah, I'm only thinking of this just because the voice actors for Miss Potato Head just passed away recently, and
Who?
since we're talking about animation, yeah, I know it does. It's
Why do you
unfortunate.
know that?
It popped up on some feed I looked on. I was like, Mrs. Potato Head, because Don Rickles, who voiced Mr. Potato Head, passed away a few years ago, right? So
Okay.
just more and more cast from another beloved childhood thing, Toy Story, is
Sure.
becoming less and less
Oh,
and less.
I was wondering where you were coming from with that. Okay. From the Toy Story.
Yeah,
Movie.
just
Gotcha.
it's
Like,
just animation, right? Just
sure.
and voice actors and stuff like. Mind you, the people in Toy Story are not voice actors; they're actors who do voice acting.
Right.
People in Futurama are voice actors who can do voice acting because a lot of the stuff that they do too, with like the heads in the jars, is them doing impersonations and stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Unless they can actually get people like Leonard Nimoy
Yeah.
or the Beastie Boys, or did they get Beck for Beck?
They did get Beck for Beck. Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. Whoa, talk about that episode. I love that episode
I
too.
know, yeah,
But in
yeah,
any case, before I guess we'll finish up. I think we've been talking for about 35 minutes here. So I'm just
quite a
I
long
guess this
time.
is a really good, nice introduction. So maybe we'll
Hold
make
on, we
reviews
didn't
kind of
finish
like
our
this.
thing.
Which thing?
Okay, but basically just our love for we found it
Oh,
at the Comic Expo kind of thing.
oh,
I unfortunately didn't do. Yeah,
oh,
no, this is
God
what happens
damn
when
it.
Anthony and
Yeah.
I get together.
Yeah.
We just jibber jabber and stuff like that.
Uh,
We'll dance around the subject and then go
I'll
back to it at
focus you
some
better.
point.
Yeah.
No,
I'll
no,
focus
no,
you
no.
better.
It's
Yeah.
this is just fun. But yeah, basically, I got into animation at ACAD and then dropped out of ACAD, and then at the expo, my dad found a pamphlet for an animation school here in Vancouver, and I
Right.
did that.
This is why you're in
And
Vancouver.
I'm a career animator by career and stuff like that. And not that I want to be a part of the world for Futurama because I believe they still do hand drawn animation, and most of it is all not exported. It's all done in like Korea or the Philippines or something like that, and they still
Uh,
do a whole lot of hand stuff.
outsourced.
Outsourced. Thank
Outsourced.
you.
Yeah.
Outsourced.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the word.
Yeah.
I've been using that word forever.
It's okay.
A lot of it's
Yeah. The
outsourced to other countries and stuff like that because of money, and
as it is.
yeah, and then it's hand drawn stuff. I'm not very good at hand drawn animation. I can do like thumbnails and stuff like that, uh, but for the most part, I do. I believe it's called puppet animation. It's kind of like a 3D rig, but in 2D, and you still have to do a whole lot of drawing. Blah blah blah. That's more of what I do.
Sure.
So I have a lot of respect for hand drawn animation and stuff like that. It's still really good. There's rumors that they're going to be bringing some back because reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes so long, and that's why things uh That's why a 3D animation has been in more demand, and people like it better. You can get different things from it compared to 2D. So I would like to see
Sure.
what they do and how much 3D elements they have for the new season as
Yeah.
well.
And that'll be something to really look forward to as well. And of course, we'll pick
Yeah,
up on reviewing and looking at the episodes as they come out for the new series when that happens too, right? So,
probably not till next year,
oh,
if that.
it'll be. I think
Like if they just got everyone under contract
um
now, maybe
yeah,
they had stories, maybe they had stuff. Like you never know. Maybe they actually like, hey, person who wants to work for Hulu, uh, write an episode or two and stuff like that. Like, oh, hey, here, boss,
yeah.
here's the episode. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can get the voice actors now
Well,
because I like this.
yeah. No,
And then that whole debacle thing. So we don't know.
they've stated here February 2022. Hulu revive the series with a 20 episode order
Oh,
expected
sweet.
to premiere in 2023.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, that'll be the time for that. So that'll be great, man. But
No,
yeah, I
well,
I know
as a
that.
person in
Yeah,
animation, it can take a long time to get just to the animation part,
right.
and then once that happens, it's a little quicker. There's a lot of
Yeah,
pre-production like I don't know too much because I'm part of the production part, and there's a little bit of post-production along, sound effects and music and um, other post stuff. I can't think of the words, stuff like that. But there's a lot of pre as
sure.
well,
Well,
pre-production.
and
So
that's
who
something,
knows?
and that's going to be. I hope that'll be a kind of major focus for you when we're doing these reviews, especially when we get into the earlier episodes. Because when you talk about animation, obviously it's something that you're really into,
Passionate. I
right?
love it.
And you can pinpoint all these little things, like where the second is, where the frame is, where it changes, how they change it, all these things.
Not
And
that good, but
so,
yeah.
well, I think over time you'd definitely be able to do something of the sort, and you might be able to recognize it better than myself or any other just random amateur person who just watches the show.
Yeah,
And then
every so often
there's other
I
things too.
will find something. I will see something in a like a current show or something like Gravity Falls is another great show that I love. There's a couple times where you'll be able to see the wrist to the elbow or something like that because they
Right,
forgot to put the sleeve layer in front of it or something like that. So
right,
mind you,
yeah,
this is hand drawn stuff, so that I don't think you get the same thing. Hand drawn cells and is way different from like current nowadays where you can draw on the computer. Very different feel from paper to Cintiq or tablet. I hate it. I like drawing on paper still.
you've definitely showed your showcase of your knowledge of cartoons, so I think it's okay. I think people can understand that you're definitely a big fan of these ones, right? You've
Oh yeah.
mentioned like 6 shows, so that's great. But in any case, we do need to now wrap this up, I think, because it's now almost
I
about 40
apologize.
minutes.
I
Oh,
get you on rants and I go on rants.
not it's not your fault. This is the nice thing, right? We just want to do a nice introduction. So
Yeah, we're not
yeah,
limited to an episode. This is just getting to know us
yep.
and
And then our little
yeah.
ideas, our thoughts, so you can understand where we're coming from. We're both not fans of woke media, of definitely not of
No.
forced diversity. We prefer when you follow
No.
stories. We prefer when you have ideas that are creative and original. But of
Oh
course,
yeah.
we understand business is business. You have to do things for money. But again,
Yes.
if you can do it
Yes.
tastefully, this is the key. And so this is what we really
Sometimes
want to.
the outside is way more the cover of a story is way more important sometimes than the actual story nowadays.
Right. And we've always said that's not true. We want the depth. We want the actual show for it. And so for a show like Futurama that's gone through shit like this, I think this is the idea that we can really work with in it. So in any case, we'll postpone it for this, and we'll see you guys, if you're still listening, of course. We'll have
Please
you
and thank you.
please and thank you. We'll have you follow us on to the actual episode. We'll follow on with Space Pilot 3000 and get right into it. And we hope you enjoy. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Anthony,
Yes. I'm Mitchell.
and we will see you soon. All right. Have a good one.
You too.